going on, guys? This is Qazi. Welcome to another amazing tutorial. When I started this series, I thought I'm gonna pick one hero frame to represent the entire film. I was wrong, because think of any film, right, that you really like when it comes to cinematography and color grading. There's just not one shot. You know, there's just so many things that makes that film and that experience so special. So from here on out, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick out like top 5 shots per film, and then I'm gonna spread them out. Last week was Star Wars, this week is Joker, next week could be Blade Runner, and then 3-4 weeks later we can revisit Joker again. I think it's gonna be way more beneficial for you guys if you're working on your project and you wanna create 4 or 5 different color palettes. This is gonna help you. Now, one thing I want to mention before we get into this look is that a lot of people get hung up on, hey, how do I get this creamy bokeh or this specific look that's happening? A lot of that stuff is created in camera and on set by choosing specific lenses, by choosing filters that go in front of the lenses. Different cameras give you different results. So let's look at the tech specs on this so you can get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So the cameras they used were the ARRI Alexa 65, LF, and Mini, but majority of the stuff was shot with 65, which is a 65mm camera and is known for its color rendition and detail. But here's something very interesting. The lenses they used were the Hasselblad Prime DNA lenses. So the premise behind this series of lenses, just check this out. Sourcing vintage optics from different historical periods. I mean, this is massive. So when we look at this clip and we see this nice creamy quality that we find in the highlights, most of it is coming from the choice of lens that was used. So this is the kind of investigation that you need to do, so then you're not wasting your time trying to create something that is just impossible, or if you were to do it, is gonna look very artificial because it just wasn't done that way in camera. Grading was done again by Company 3 and especially by their senior colorist Jill. She's done John Wick 2, John Wick 3, Spider-Man Far From Home. She's done so many freaking movies. She's the real OG. Just look at this. She has worked on Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which pretty much put the foundation for DI in Hollywood. So you just saw what went into creating that soft, like creamy highlights that we love about this film. And for that specific reason, I personally spend way more time researching the look that I'm recreating than the actual process of recreating that look. And for those who are interested in taking their color grading game to the next level, make sure to check the link in the description below. 1 hour-long color grading training that takes you from not knowing anything about Resolve all the way to grading your first professional gig. Guys, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more awesomeness. Make sure to check out my Instagram and follow me there. I post there every single day, and let's roll the intro. All right, before we start color grading, let's analyze this shot and see what's happening here and what we need to do to get in the ballpark. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go under my open effects right here and I'm gonna type in palette and I'm gonna drop in my color palette, and then I'm gonna move this over, make this full screen so we can spend some time analyzing what kind of color scheme we got going on here. So at the bottom, it kind of gives you an overall arc of all the colors that make this image. So we can obviously see that this is the epitome of the teal and orange. And with the hint of vintage, this right here is what gives it that vintage feel. And we can see it right here. And even the orange is not your Transformer orange. It just feels like a period piece. Even the shadows are not pure black. There's this green embedded in these shadows. We can look at our highlights and see that there's nothing pure white here, okay? So everything is leaning toward this off-white color. Knowing these anchors on the top and the bottom is really gonna help you nail this look. Now I'm gonna bring in my scopes and let's see the color story through scopes. Let's start with the parade. The cyan is being created by pulling our reds down and then offsetting them by lifting the greens and the blues. So we can see that right here, and that's what's creating this dark, deep green that we're talking about. This is where it's coming from. And then obviously we can see that there's a lot more red. And then when you suck the blue out of it, that's what adds this warm yellow to the image. And that's what's happening. So the blues are sitting right here, then the green, then the red. And that's what we witness right here. It has a really, really nice color to it. Vector scope is very helpful when you're balancing your image. It will put you in the ballpark right off the bat. So this is the shot that we're going to be working with. I'm going to park it on my hero frame. Let's just say this is our hero frame. All right, so let's set up our node tree. First node is going to be reserved for our noise reduction. Second is going to be for my exposure. Third is going to be for saturation. Fourth is going to be for my balance. And then we're going to start creating the look. So I'm going to have 3 parallel nodes for my look. And then if we need more, we're going to create more. Then I'm going to have another node as our look adjustment. And then afterwards, we're going to have a node where we're going to create a vignette, sharpening over here, and then we're going to have our global adjustment, and finally we're going to have our grain, and I'm going to put it right here. It's kind of cool how I set it up, keeps everything very clean. So let's go ahead and start naming them. So this is my noise reduction, this is my exposure, that's my sat, this is my balance, that's our look. And let's just keep this general, and I'm not going to name these because we're going to figure it out as we go. But we know that this is going to be a look adjustment. And then we know that this is going to be our vignette. This is going to be our sharpen. That's our global adjustment. And then this is going to be our grain. All right, so now that we have our node tree structure laid out clearly, and pretty much we can, at this point, once we're done with our project, we can hand it off to someone else, and whoever works on this will know exactly what's going on. When you're working on a scene, you're going to pick a hero clip, you're going to create a grade for that, and then you're going to copy paste that grade on all the shots within the scene, and then you go on and make micro adjustments. That way everything stays consistent and uniform. Just a side note. All right, let's start with our exposure. So I'm going to go ahead in my gallery, I'm going to go pick the frame that I want, and then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to select selected still images. That way I can see my image right there that I'm working on. Now that we have that selected, let's get to work. I'm going to start with my contrast right here. So I'm going to bring my gain down. I'm going to raise my mid-tone quite a bit because I see that there's a nice creamy thing going on in the exposure. So I want that. And that happens when you lift your gamma. And then I'm going to take my lift and I'm going to bring it down a little bit, not too much. I'm going to bring my gamma up more. And I'm going to go ahead and go under my log wheels, and I'm going to select my range and bring it down to around 2-ish. And then I'm going to pull my shadows down. Somewhere around here. So now if we look at right here to right here, we're kind of getting in that world, okay? And if you look at the right is our Joker shot, and then the left is what we're working on. So I'm liking where I'm at right now. We can take our lift and bring it down a little bit more, but I think I want to keep some detail here, almost like I'm just looking at this area right here. So somewhere around here is actually not bad. So now our exposure is looking really, really close. Before, after. So this is looking good. Moving on to saturation. Let's give it some juice. Just enough. So I'm at 73, 74-ish. Just enough so we have some detail to work with. Somewhere around here, that's fine. So I'm going to leave my saturation right here. Let's go under balance. And now we're going to use our primaries to start getting it in the ballpark. So let's start with my gain, and I'm going to start moving it towards that vintage orange that we got going on. So what I'm focusing on right now is this right here. This is my highlights. This right here is what that should be. So I'm focusing on that. I can see that there's quite a bit of like red in there. So I'm trying to put that in. And then I'm going to use my gamma and just go straight toward this, which is yellow pretty much. So now I'm focusing on this part to that. Somewhere around here. And if I turn it on and off, it's not looking bad. Now what I want to do is I'm going to take my lift and I'm going to offset it. So I'm going to go in the opposite direction a little bit. I'm going to keep it somewhere around here. So do you see the power of primaries? Look what I was able to do just by using my primaries wheels. So many people overlook their primaries wheels altogether and they just move on to doing all these other adjustments and they just think that, you know, those things are so important. This is how you get the cleanest image possible. Just look at that. I mean, if you're doing a quick look and getting it in the ballpark, we can just park it right here and you can start grading rest of your movie based on this look and just look at before to where we are, and that could be the look. So I think this is good for the primaries. Now let's get into our look and start dialing it in. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go under my hue versus hue and let's get some of these colors dialed in as close as possible. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to take the yellow and turn it a little bit more into this reddish yellow world, like a little bit more orange. The way to do that is to take my reds and start moving them around. I'm going to take it up a little bit. And if I turn it on and off, you see we're going in that world just a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. And it's showing through even right here. Okay. So I'm leaving that on. And then the fun one is going to be cyan. So look at these colors. I want to get them in this world. So that's not bad at all. If I turn this on and off now, just look at what we're doing and how, if I make this bigger and show you just by doing quick little tweaks, how much closer we're getting. And guys, that's the point. The way I'm building this grade is that I want to use 0 qualifiers. That way, this is going to be the look DNA. You can apply this look to the entire film if you want to. Now, I want to go into my second look node. And what I want to do here is something really fun, and hue versus luminance. Okay, just a disclaimer. You really need to know what you're doing in order to use this because you can ruin your image. So I'm gonna raise it a little bit and it gives it that creamy feel too. I don't go past 2 notches. You see, usually that's the rule of thumb. It doesn't matter what kind of camera you're working with. live in this world. Don't go past that. So I'm going to park it right here, but look at the difference already on her face. You see that? And it's adding a really nice glow on the window. Another thing that I'm going to do is that, see how deep this teal color is? I want that depth in here too. So it's really easy to do that. I'm going to go under my cyan. I'm going to pull it down. Look at this. And again, don't abuse it. Don't go too far. So I'm going to keep it somewhere around here. Just my cyan. And I'm going to make it big so you can see it. And it's holding it. So look at this. Boom. Right there. Look at the difference. Again, no keys are being used so far. Let's go into our third node in our look tree. And what we want to do here, we're going to go under our log wheels and really start dialing in these colors. So I'm going to start with my highlights and I'm going to push it in this orange world and look what starts happening. Now we're bringing in that magenta. And again, I'm focusing right here. Like almost like right here. And that's what I want to bring in. I'm going to push it and then I'm going to bring it back. And then I'm going to take my mid-tone and I'm going to really bring in that yellow in here, like this kind of color right here. Somewhere around here. This is looking really good. Now what I want to do is I'm just going to make tiny adjustments to my gamma and gain and see if we can just get more in that world. So I'm going to take my gamma and take it towards somewhere around here. That's doing the trick. And then what I want to do is my focus is right here. You see this? That's what I want on the back of this laptop. This sort of like teal, deep teal. So I'm going to do that by using my lift. Actually, you know what? Let's try lift and then we can go back and we can use, okay, so the lift is not working. Let me just go into my log wheels and see if the log does the trick. And you can see that this is exactly what's happening in our Joker grade, because look at where the reds are, and this is where our reds are now. And then look at the green and the blue in the Joker look, and look at the blue and the green in my look. And I think we can lift our blue a little bit more. All right. So we can make more adjustments in the look adjustment node as well. Obviously, that's what it's there for. But let's bring everything down, because look at how much we've raised everything compared to where everything is living in the Joker grade. So what I can do is, so I'm gonna go under my highlights and pull them down a little bit. Just like that. And it's actually not bad because it gives us more detail, obviously, in there, and then adds more saturation too. So I do like that. So let's add another parallel, and that's gonna be for my talent, because I just want to pull her out from the background quite a bit. So I'm going to park it right here, and this is going to be a pretty specialty little window right here. And I'm going to go under my regular curves and I'm going to raise it. And then let's track it. Track it back. Track it forward. Let's bring our highlights down a little bit more. Look at the detail we brought back. It's kind of ridiculous. That's insane. Okay, so this is looking pretty freaking good. And let's go under our vignette. And what I want to do is create a window. Gonna keep it pretty big. Gonna keep it something like that. And since the light is coming through here, I'm gonna keep the motivation proper. Here is the softness that I want, and let's flip it, go under my curves, and pull it. Not too much. And then let me see. Honestly, I can do with or without. It does make my greens deeper, so I do like that. And there's a heavy vignette happening here too, so I feel like it's actually adding, it's not taking anything away. So I'm going to leave it in. We're not going to add any sharpening here because, I mean, just look at our image, how soft it is, and you saw that that happened because they're using vintage glass. And for that reason, we're just going to kind of leave it in. We're not going to add any sharpening to it. As a matter of fact, let's try adding one more thing. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go under my mid-tone detail and I'm really going to pull it back. So look what happens. If I just go to -100, look how soft her face has gotten. Like if I turn it on and off, and it also just kind of adds that glow. So I'm going to keep it somewhere around here, 50-ish. And then what I want to do in here in my sharpening, I actually want to add that effect. So I want to add mid-tone detail, maybe at around 30. And you can kind of see what it's doing. And if you think that's too heavy-handed, then just kind of bring it down. What else we can do is this. I can say, hey, take the key output from there, and in here I can say, flip that. So now I'm telling it, hey, leave her face as is, don't take any detail away from her face, but then soften everything else. So you see what's happening? How we softened everything around her face. And that's what's happening here. Now let's go under global adjustment and see if there's anything else that we want to do. So a good rule of thumb is to kind of look at your scopes one more time and see where everything is living. So my reds are high, their reds are high. My greens are second, and then their greens are second. Then blues are high, blues are high. Bottom is looking pretty identical to what's happening in Joker. Let me just make it bigger and see if there's any last changes that I want to make to this image. I'm really liking how everything is here. I'm really liking how everything is here. Honestly, I'm going to leave the global adjustment untouched for now, but obviously we can always come back and make changes, and got to grunge it up with that grain. So let's go in. I'm going to add my favorite 35mm 400T. And then let's go ahead and crank that strength up. That's looking good. And now what I want to do is I want to go in my noise reduction because I do see some noise. And I'm going to go ahead and do my signature noise reduction, bring it around 4.8-ish. Uncheck this guy, bring it around 6.8-ish. That's going to take care of my noise. And then I'm going to add some nice grain to bring that character back in. So the only thing that I see when I go back and forth between the two clips is that we can pull some of the highlights down even more, just the overall exposure, because we can see that this is pretty dark and this seems a little bit brighter. All right, so let's go under my gain and I'm going to pull it down a little bit. And then, all right, so this is looking a little bit better. And then the next thing that I want to do is I want to pull down my color boost. All right, so this, see, this is where the global adjustment comes in super freaking clutch. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and turn off all my nodes and then turn them on one by one to see where we started and where we ended up. So we started with our exposure and we got everything in the ballpark in terms of our contrast. Then we added some saturation just to start separating colors so we can better see what needs fixing and where we need to take everything. Then we moved on to our balance, and I showed you how much that can be done just by working with our balance. I mean, look at this. That looks average, amateur, and then this. I mean, we could have just parked it here and it was a pretty freaking amazing image. And that happened just by using primaries, no windows necessary, no qualifiers necessary. That's the key that you need to understand. Being a pro colorist, sometimes you're going through hundreds or thousands of shots. You got to pick your battles carefully. Then we went ahead and started creating our look. And the first thing that we did was by using our hue versus hue, we were able to nudge certain colors in the direction that we wanted them in. Then we went and used our hue versus luminance, and that was the real sauce to get that depth in some colors that we just didn't have originally in this clip. Then we used our log wheels to create that vintage vibe. This is where the log wheels come into play. A lot of people use them as their primaries adjustment. Don't do that. Use your log wheels for look creation, because just check this out, like how far we went just by using our log wheels. Once again, no qualifiers necessary. Then we went ahead and created a window around our girl to like really pull her out and put more emphasis on her. Then we created our look adjustment to brought everything down, and just look at how much detail we were able to preserve and get close to our Joker image. Then I created a vignette, and it was motivated by this light that's coming through, and it helped add more saturation in our green right here and directed our eye to our subject even more. And then for sharpening, we actually reversed it and we subtracted mid-tone detail to like really add this glow that's happening in the back. We can see it. We kept her face sharp by borrowing, instead of recreating the window and tracking it, we just borrowed that information from already created window that was tracked previously and inverted it. So it left that alone and then created our glowing effect around it. Then we did our final global adjustment to get right in that exposure ballpark that we have happening with Joker, because it's, as much as it's warm and it's nice, it's still depressing and it's Gotham City, and you got to stay true to that. And then we added noise reduction to clean the image up and finished it off with my favorite part of any grade, which is grain, and that just gives it such a film quality. Look at all of this. My God, it just makes it look so freaking good. And there you have it. Let's look at the two shots next to each other in full screen. I hope you guys had a blast, and just remember, color grading means we're fiddling with colors, not necessarily adding bokeh or adding anamorphic effects and this and that and the other thing. Keep those things to a minimum, or else you're gonna add a lot of artifacts to your images. Drop a comment below, let me know which look should I do next. hit a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more awesomeness. Please share this with friends, and make sure if you want to take your color grading game to the next level, check out the link in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video.